D-Man here. Just telling you, I hope you like this video. So let's get in to the video.
Hello guys, D-Man here, doing another movie review. This time, the spectacular Spider-Man Homecoming. This movie is freaking awesome. Before I start my review, I'm doing the usual thing, non-spoilers then spoilers. But before we start, I do want to say there is two after credit scenes, and without spoiling them, let's just say the first one is interesting, and the last one, what you have to wait for about, you have to wait to the very end of the credits, and it takes like about like 5 or 8 minutes or so to get through all the credits. But at the very end, there's one last little cutscene, and the last one is very, very interesting. You have to stick around for the very last one. That's all I gotta say. You won't regret it. But anyways, let's get into the non-spoiler section of the review. So the non-spoiler section is this movie freaking awesome. There were mainly one thing I didn't like about it, but I will get into that. But anyways, this movie is on par, not on par, with the very first Spider-Man movie. And a lot of people say like they like the second Spider-Man movie, the second like iteration of the Spider-Man movies, um, with uh, with Andrew Garfield, I think his name is. They like the Amazing Spider-Man, I think that's what they call it, right? But I always liked the very first trilogy of the Spider-Man movies, except for the last one, I guess. So the very first two Spider-Man movies with Doc Ock and the Green Goblin. I always liked that Spider-Man the best, and he was like my Spider-Man like since I was younger. I might have been a kid. I was maybe a teenager. I don't know when that movie came out, but I was either a teenager or a kid at the time. But I just loved that movie and the second one. The third one, eh. But the first two I loved. And this movie, the Andrew Garfield one, the Amazing Spider-Man, I think that's what they call it. That one never lived up to the first one to me. Those two movies never lived up to the first one to me for me, especially the second one. But the this movie lives up to the very first Spider-Man movie. Uh, it just lives up to it. It's freaking awesome. This movie is fantastic. The beginning of it tells about the villain, which we'll get into in the spoiler section, and then it has the little Marvel logo, and then the actual movie starts at that point. I would say, and the very beginning of this movie, hilarious. We'll get more in depth in the spoiler section, obviously. So, it's hilarious. This whole movie is pretty much a lot of humor, but with some it has some like it has some like controversial and stuff, and it just like it has everything a superhero movie needs, right? It's more lighthearted at times, and then at times it's more serious. I can't really say anything more than that because without spoiling it. Um, but anyways, I love this movie. Uh, the things I don't like about it, I can't really say too much without spoiling it, but I will try to explain what I don't like about it without spoiling it. So the first thing I don't like is the relationship with Tony Stark and Spider-Man. At first, the relationship was okay, but then by the middle of the movie, it got kind of stupid for me. And then by the end, I I didn't really like it. I liked the ending of like the relationship. The relationship didn't end, I should say, but I liked the what they did at the end with the relationship. Um, I can't really say much about it, but without spoiling it, obviously. But the relationship at first was okay, but in the middle part, it got kind of like meh for me. The relationship between Tony and Spider Man. I will explain why I think that way in the spoiler section, and I'll explain the relationship fully. But it's just the relationship between them kind of was stupid to me. Uh, Stupid in a specific way. That's pretty much the most thing I hate about it, though. Uh, but I'll let it slide because of the ending. I'll tell you why I'll let it slide at the ending, at the spoiler review. I mean, but anyways, that's pretty much the thing I hate the most, and also the 3D aspect because I watched this movie in 3D, and the 3D aspect just made it kind of blurry to me. But it was just what they had, right? It was just like, oh, it's playing in this version in 3D. So I was like, whatever, I'll just watch it in 3D because I want to watch it early. I want to watch it like a day early. So I watched it in 3D, and it was kind of more blurry than it should have been. But that's just my opinion on the 3D. That's not my opinion on the actual movie. But yeah, so there's only really one thing I dislike about this movie, but there's a hell of a lot that I like about this movie. And there are two scenes that I will get into in the spoiler section. There are two scenes that remind me of the very first installment of Spider-Man, like my favorite Spider-Man, like almost my favorite Spider-Man. It might come in second to this one, actually. It might come in second to this one. I never really liked the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, but I always liked the very first. I think his name is Tobey Maguire, maybe? Is that his name? I think it is, but whatever. You know what I'm talking about. The very first Spider-Man, the very first Spider-Man movie. This movie has, at least I personally think, two references towards that movie, and they're very interesting references, and I will get into in the spoiler section. But anyways, that's my non-spoiler review. Fantastic movie. If I were to rate 1 to 10, 1 being the worst, 10 being the best, 5 being just middle ground, just average, this movie would have to be a 8 for me. I would definitely watch this movie again, and it is definitely a movie that pretty much all ages can enjoy, unless the kid that doesn't like live action movies, I guess. But like this movie is definitely a great movie. I recommend watching it at least once, maybe twice if you want to. It's your money, not mine. But this movie, freaking awesome and fantastic. So now, spoiler alert. We're getting to spoilers now. So, anyways, let's start off with the end credit scenes. I know I'm doing a little bit backwards. So the first end credit scene is of the villain, because the villain at the end goes to jail, and he knows who Spider-Man is, which I guess that's the third reference to the original Spider-Man, because the Green Goblin finds out that it's Peter, and Peter finds out that the Green Goblin was Norman Osborn. Which I don't think we'll ever get a Green Goblin in this Spider-Man, which is kind of sad, because I've always liked Green Goblin as a character. But I don't think we'll ever get a Green Goblin in this Spider-Man. But I don't even think there's a Norman Osborn's son. I don't think Peter has that person in his life. There's not a Gwen Stacy or a Mary Jane, or maybe there is. The nerdy girl at the end says her name is MJ, I think. So Mary Jane, I guess. I've always liked Spider-Man and Mary Jane, but not Gwen Stacy. I don't know. This is my personal opinion. But whatever. The first after credit scene, it takes about a minute or two to get there. It is of the villain going to jail, and another person coming up to him that I have never personally seen, but correct me if I'm wrong if it's in another one of the Marvel shows. He says to him like, "Oh, I heard that you know who Spider-Man is. A few of my friends want to kill him. You know, like a few of my friends want like go out with the kid, just like maybe kill him or something like that." And the guy says, "Oh, if I knew who Spider-Man was, I'd kill him." Which is kind of interesting because Spider-Man does save his life at the end. So maybe that's why he didn't tell his secret identity, or maybe he's just trying not to be an absolute dick. Because he is a family man, so maybe he doesn't want to be an absolute dick to Peter Parker and get him and his aunt killed. So that's kind of nice of the villain to do. I guess a little bit of retribution for the villain. And then the second end credit scene, I'm not even gonna mention it here because you gotta watch it for yourself to see it. Just wait through all 5 to 8 minutes or so. There might even be a little bit longer, but just wait through all that. Watch that end credit scene, and you will not regret it. I promise. It is freaking awesome. But anyways, let's get into the movie. So the first part of the movie opens up with the villain, and he is part of uh, a city collection agency, and this is when the aliens attacked. In the first Avengers movie, this is when the aliens attacked, and after they got defeated, he was part of the clean crew. But then the government and Tony Stark specifically came in to take all the alien tech, and this guy he like runs his own company, so he already like he lost money on this, and he's just like, I'm gonna lose money, like I have a family and stuff, so just let me do this, please, please, please. But they're like, nope, this is government shit, we're not letting you do this. So he lost money, and what ends up happening is he keeps some of the alien technology, and he starts making weapons and stuff like that for thiever. Like he starts stealing stuff and also selling the weapons off, which is very dangerous because he's selling to criminals, but he's also stealing to make the weapons. I can understand the first part, but the selling to criminals, that's that's one of the bad things. Like you're selling to criminals, that means you're probably responsible for a lot of death and a lot of heartache, you know. So can't really feel that bad for the villain. But that's the first part is of him, and then after the like initial little sequence, like the Marvel logo and stuff like that, the initial little like ba ba sort of thing, you know, the little initial theme song. It turns into Spider-Man at the beginning of Avengers. No, at Avengers. Wait, Captain America versus Iron Man. Okay, at the beginning of where he gets like drove out there, it shows that, and he's blogging the whole time. And oh my God, is his blog hilarious? Um, he blogs the whole thing. His blog's hilarious. At one point, he's fighting against them, and he's still blogging. So he goes to pick up his phone. He's like, oh, like I'm gonna steal Captain America's shield and stuff. Then after that, he goes back to his little uh, hotel, I guess, that he was staying in, and he's blogging like almost like any YouTuber would. Then I stole Captain America's shield, and it was freaking awesome. And it was like, oh, and it was just the most hilarious thing that you could ever see Spider-Man do. But it was freaking awesome and hilarious. And then after that, we go to modern day. Spider-Man still has the Iron Man suit, and he's still fighting crime. And Iron Man said that if we need you, someone will contact you and we'll get you back. Because Iron Man doesn't really, he doesn't not trust him, but he doesn't think he's ready yet. Even though Iron Man's a complete douchebag. And this is where the Iron Man Spider Man relationship kind of irks me, because Iron Man is treating Spider Man like a kid, which I can understand because Peter Parker is a kid at this point. But Peter Parker was always a self made hero. And in this movie, it makes it more like Iron Man helped him create himself, which he did, I guess, in a way. Um, but it like emphasizes that too much, and Peter Parker at the end, Iron Man kind of gets mad at him and says like, "Give me the suit. You're not doing this anymore because you screwed up too many times. So give me the suit, yeah, and just go back to being you, right?" And Spider-Man gives him the suit and doesn't even put on his old suit until he finally realizes like, I gotta do this anyways because I don't care what Tony Stark says anymore, like, because Tony Stark basically says, like, don't handle the big guys, we'll handle the big guys, some will handle the big guys, you don't have to handle the big guys. It's like, but Spider-Man's just like, okay. At first he's like, okay. But then at the end he's like, nope, I'm doing this, and I love that Spider-Man. But that's one of the things I didn't like about this movie because Spider-Man was so much like just like okay because he like just gave in so easily. Um, he like had too much respect for Tony Stark, I guess. And Spider-Man, to me, in the comics and in all the previous movies, he was always a self-made hero, and he's never giving in to people like that. You know, maybe in some of the comic books he did, but not any that I've seen and stuff. But like I just don't like how the relationship played out at first, and then Spider-Man finally got the courage to like think on his own sort of thing. I didn't like that dynamic, but at the end, Spider-Man has the guts. Like Captain America, I mean not Captain America. I mean Iron Man says you should join the Avengers because because he saved the day and he stopped this really bad criminal from stealing a bunch of stuff. Um, So Iron Man's just like, you should join the Avengers, and Spider Man's just like, you know what? I'm good on my own. I'm good, and that's why I can let this slide, because it was all leading up to that point, and Spider Man finally going like, I don't really need all this fancy shit. I'm good on my own, which is always what I like to hear with Spider Man, because that is just what Spider Man is to me. You know, he's just like not a lone wolf, but a guy that made himself and doesn't need anybody else's approval to fight in anything, you know. But that's that's just why I hated that dynamic so much because he just listened to Iron Man so easily. It was just like that is not Peter Parker. Peter Parker would never be like, okay. He might lie and say okay and then go behind his back. But normally Peter Parker would be like, I don't listen to you. Like I do my own shit. Like I'm not part of your stupid superhero team. I'm part of my own superhero team, which is Spider-Man, 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 or me, myself, and I. So that's the part that I didn't like about the movie is the very just stupid relationship that they had, and like the very like passive nature that Spider-Man had, and like the very like dependence he had on Iron Man. I guess that's the best way to explain it. That's the whole thing I didn't like about that relationship, and that's basically all the thing I didn't like about the movie. But I'll let it slide because at the very end, Spider-Man realizes that he doesn't need him, and he gets the suit back at the end too. And I gotta say, the suit is awesome because after they hack into the suit, Spider-Man and his friend hack into the suit. The suit's freaking awesome. It has a voice, and that voice is sexy. I gotta say. I don't know, man. If I had that suit, I might try to fuck it. Because that voice is sexy. But anyways, the suit is awesome. It has a bunch of different settings and stuff like that. And I'm glad he got back at the end because I just like the suit and Spider-Man's dynamic. It's a very interesting dynamic because Spider-Man's like talking to her and he's just like, do this, and she's just like, okay, let's do this and this. And she helps him out a lot. So at the end, he gets the suit back and he's going to be able to have that help again. And I really like that dynamic between them. It's kind of like Tony Stark and Jarvis, but a little bit better and a little bit more funny. um, it's just better in my opinion. But anyways, let's get back to the spoiler review. Uh, so after the beginning, which is hilarious, goes to his school. We meet the nerdy girl, which she really isn't in this movie that much, and the popular girl. And the popular girl actually likes Peter Parker in this one. But at the end, it turns out her father is the bad guy, and she moves because Peter Parker puts her father in jail, but she doesn't know Peter Parker did it because she doesn't know Peter Parker's Spider-Man. But she ends up moving, and she says to Peter that she hopes he gets through all his stuff because he has problems. Because everybody thinks he has problems because he keeps on like skipping classes and stuff, and he ditched her at prom. But it was very interesting to see that she actually liked Peter Parker, and Flash is actually not completely a jock. He's actually on the spelling quiz, like the spelling team or the quiz team. He's not like a jock, but he is still a dick, and he's still like the cool guy, the quote unquote cool guy. But he's not like a stupid jock in this one. He is stupider than Parker still, but he's not like super stupid in this one. And he's not the jock that he used to be. And he's also uh, played by a brown man, which I'm fine with, whatever. um, But anyways, that's a little bit difference between Flash and the old ones. He's not a jock in this one, or at least not the one I've seen. He was in like the quiz team, but he would. It was a very interesting little dynamic they had there at school and stuff. And the nerdy girl, what's her name? Is MJ? I think she says at the end, if I'm not mistaken. She's not really in the movie that much, but you can tell that she has something for Peter. Like at the very end too, you can tell that she definitely has something for Peter, and there's something gonna happen there. So Mary Jane and Peter are gonna get together, unless that's not her name, and people just call her MJ. So I don't know. I'm pretty sure that stands for Mary Jane, but then again, maybe it stands for peanut butter and jam. I don't know. Wait, peanut butter starts with a B. Mayonnaise and jam. Mayonnaise start with an M? Probably. Yeah, MJ, mayonnaise and jam. Yes. Anyways, I'm pretty sure she's Mary Jane. Mary Jane? Mary Jane? That's her name, right? But yeah, like this, not really too much stuff at the school, and the kid that's his best friend learns that he's Spider-Man, and he's actually more helpful than I thought he was because he's kind of like a hacker nerd. He hacked into the suit with Peter, and he kind of helps him out a little bit. And there's a joke that he says that he references porn, and it's freaking hilarious. But you gotta watch it. um, but anyways, let's get into what I think are personal nods to the original Spider-Man, to the original Spider-Man movie. There's actually more than two. There's a few of them that now that I think about it, there's a few of them. The first one has to be when Peter or Spider-Man, whatever, meets his prom date's dad, the fancy girl that he has a crush on, that has a crush on him back. All the way at the end, she doesn't anymore, and he kind of just lets her go. But he meets her dad, and the bad guy is her dad, and he finds out that he is Spider-Man through like conversation and stuff. And that reminds me of the first one with the Green Goblin, find out that Peter's Spider-Man through conversation at the aunt's house when they were having Thanksgiving dinner, I think it was. He finds out that Spider-Man is Peter. And it kind of just reminded me of that a lot. Like that little scene reminded me of that a lot. And then the second scene is when Peter goes to stop him without the Iron Man suit. And he's like, I kind of knew you would come here. I kind of know you like this and this. Like that's the bad guy saying that. And Spider-Man's just like, well, I gotta stop you and stuff, you know. He's like, well, you can't. And his glider comes at Spider-Man, which I personally think that's another reference to the Green Goblin. When at the end Norman's like, Peter, I need help, please, and he's crying, and then he's like, goodbye, Spider-Man. And then the glider comes with the knives and tries to hit Spider-Man, but Spider-Man dodges it and impales him. But this time it's the Hawk, or the it's his name is the Vulture. I think his name is the Vulture in the comics. But whatever, he dodges it because it comes just like the glider from the Green Goblin, the original. It comes right up behind him and he dodges it. And that was most likely a reference to the first one, just like the other one was a reference. And then the third and maybe last reference, there's probably a few more references out there to the Spider-Man, to the first Spider-Man movie, and probably even to the second Spider-Man installment movies. The last one was when the bad guy uh, gets really cocky and he basically like, I'm gonna steal this even though his shit's gonna blow up on him. And Peter's like, no, don't, you're gonna die, your thing's gonna blow up, just stop, I'm trying to save you. And he's like, stop getting in my way, you're trying to get in my way. He's like, no, I'm trying to save you, dumbass. That reminds me a lot of at the end of Spider-Man, where Norman Osborn just he's just a cocky asshole who Spider-Man's trying to save, but he won't let him, and he's just like, just don't do this, don't do that, just stop. That reminded me a hell of a lot of the end scene without the glider, obviously, because the glider part happens before that. So that reminds me a hell of a lot of the end scene. But this time, Spider-Man actually saves the villain, and the villain goes to jail. So those are the three references that I could see personally that reference back to the original trilogy. But there might be a few more. And in between all this, there's a lot of funny stuff that happens. Some dark stuff, like one guy gets vaporized. It's just really great movie. I Of 1 to 10, I gotta say it's an 8. It's really good. See this once, see this twice. It doesn't matter how much times you see this because you'll probably enjoy it every time. Unless you see it like 10 or more times, then you'll probably start getting bored of it. I don't know. Maybe 100 times for people. I don't know, but it's a very, very good show. Um, with just good things. And the only thing I had a problem with was the Iron Man thing. The Iron Man Spider Man relationship thing just kind of irked me because Spider Man has always been his own self made hero and he's never needed like Iron Man's permission or anything. But in this movie, it sounds like it makes it feel like he does need Iron Man's permission, which is stupid to me. But whatever. Other than that, great movie, and the 3D made a little bit fuzzy, I guess. And Flash, still a dick. And we never get the iconic lines, with great power comes great responsibility. I've always loved those lines. I don't like how the second and third installment now never use them. Uh, I just want to hear him say it once, like what Uncle Ben said. With great power comes great responsibility. Maybe at a funeral or something like that. That'd be interesting. That'd be a fourth nod to the first series. I don't know. I just love those lines. Those are like iconic lines of Spider-Man, and I think they should say it sometime. Maybe not in Spider-Man's movie, but maybe in like another movie or something like that. Maybe Iron Man makes a joke or something and says them. I don't know. I'm just saying he should say them sometime, cause I like those. I like that line. That's an awesome line. And there's a Stan Lee cameo in this, by the way. So yeah, this movie very good, very interesting. Definitely watch it. Um, and that's my review, I guess. I know I kind of got rambly a little bit there, but that's all the things I can remember and all the good parts I can remember and stuff like that. Without I didn't completely spoil it, so you can still watch it and still be surprised about some parts. But anyways, that's my review. Hope you liked it. If you did, like, comment, subscribe, and share. As always, my friends, stay sane.
D-Man here. Just remind you to subscribe by clicking here. It works on mobile. Or click here to watch my last video. It also works on mobile. Just remember, subscribe and stuff. Alright, bye-bye.